Welcome to the Winden Caves. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is...
Tiny!
Tiny, we are going to be covering Dark, Season 2, Episode 3, Ghosts, and Episode 4, The Travelers.
Can we remind them now, if they have not watched Season 2, Episode 3 and 4, do not listen to this podcast?
There are going to be spoilers galore, probably angst galore. I can't even say what the real trouble is going to be other than, oh my God, no. Oh my God, no. We've come to some dark times. We are part of the Double P Media crew, Double P Media family. You can find all about us at Double P HQ. That's the word double, the single letter P, and the letters HQ for headquarters. Find us at Double P HQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/Double P HQ. With that out of the way, we always want to mention our double T's.
Time Traveler.
That's right. Double L's.
Loyal listeners.
Who are kind enough to tweet out, to tell friends about the Winden Caves podcast and help us grow this community of people who are very, very confused. You can become one too. Once again, just tweet out at Double PHQ, tweet out, talk about Winden Caves, point people to the podcast. We want to grow this discussion. This week, we've got some new Double T time travelers, and let me read them off right now. Those new Double T's are Louise Connolly and Nikki Powell.
Woo!
Tiny, we also had a bit of feedback. You ready?
I'm ready.
Louise said, "This is Louise in Australia." Louise, I'm going to believe that you know Peter. Louise wrote, "What's the deal with Waller's eyes? Season 1, his eye is bandaged and I presume recovering. But from what? Season 2, it's now wearing a permanent black patch. Where? How? Why? What happened to it? And doesn't anybody care? I declare I'm on the team Eye of Waller." I think Waller's Eye also might have been a very good name for a podcast if we didn't choose Winden Caves. Questions I may ponder. Does the missing eye play a significant role this season? Will it turn up in the far, far future? Will there be a prequel series starring the eye? Or is it an in-joke that will never be explained? Ding, ding! P.S. Love listening to you both. Have to say I'm now even more confused. But hey, that's just me. Nikki Powell wrote, "I need some skits to get me through the Walking Dead-like futurescape, same cinematographer, and disregard of their own time travel narrative boundaries. Winden Timelines is a running flash sale on time travels. Deal so low, you book random day trips." Nikki also wrote, "The time travel dog is the only likable character now. She's earning her kibble. How old is she in dog time travel years? She must be injecting Noah's youth serum since Noah should be even older than Claudia based on his young Noah flashbacks." Oh, great feedback. Please, we want to induct more members into the Double T Time Travel Club. If you're a Double L loyal listener, write to us at Double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/Double PHQ. Okay, Tiny, it is time to talk about the turns that this show keeps punching us in the face with. First off, let's go general. Episode 3, Ghosts, and Episode 4, The Travelers. Do you like it? Did you enjoy it? Do you like where the story's going? Or is it just too crazy at this point?
I think I like it. I don't always understand the motivation for older people to visit their younger version, but I like it. It's interesting. It actually has an element of fun, which we actually haven't seen in the whole series.
Yeah, that's true. When we review these episodes, I'm going to talk about times when I actually laughed at partnerships or pairings of characters that really I enjoyed an awful lot. I want to say that Episode 3 is a bit slower, seems to take place only in 54 and 87, but I actually think that kind of paid off, especially getting to know these characters. And as I keep mentioning, one of my favorite characters, Egon, it kept showing him and his daughter, Claudia. Sometimes the age, who was older and who was younger kept changing, but the relationship between them in Episode 3 was really good. Episode 4, total honesty right now. Right when the Dark Season 2 episodes premiered, I was trying to tweet out and get people to listen to the Winden Caves podcast, and I saw a tweet in German, which I couldn't quite understand, but I thought it might have said, in German, "Jonas is Adam."
Bubba, who would do such a thing? Who would tweet that out?
It's someone who did it in German, and so that it wouldn't spoil me, but I kind of thought, huh?
Achtung, baby.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Nein. But I still kind of saw it, and this, I have to be honest, this reveal at the end of episode 4, yes, everybody, if we can believe it, and I gotta be honest, I do believe it, Jonas, after he becomes the stranger/older version of Jonas, he's so stuck in this time loop, he gets to be an old, scarred, destroyed man. And I've always been on Team Jonas. To be honest, I'm still somehow on Team Jonas. But this is really just, it's like a kick in the gut, I feel.
Well, the whole time I felt like Mikkel is the puzzle piece. Why do all these other kids die, but Mikkel is set to live in 1987 and grow up and have a separate life, and now I guess we know.
Because Adam needs him to happen, and Adam is the puppet master who's been pulling all these strings, a.k.a. Jonas is.
But I'm guessing Jonas, when he told younger Jonas not to take Mikkel, I guess, does he know at that point that he ends up to be his own arch nemesis? Does he know when he's in the...
He must.
Does he know when he's in the cellar? Well, I guess he must, because he just was told when he was younger in the 20s.
We haven't seen beyond these 2 episodes, but my only guess is that young Jonas hears ridiculously old Adam version of Jonas say this, and he says, no, I can fix it, I can change it, I can still change it, and doesn't believe that he's going to end up this fate. He's fighting the fate. He certainly doesn't. If you're Jonas, do you want to end up like this guy? And so maybe that's why stranger/middle-aged version of Jonas is fighting so hard, but oh my Lord, it just devastated.
So is a cycle 33 years? We know how old Jonas is now, and we can assume how old Adam looks, so is a cycle 33 years?
I would think everything in this.
But he's got to stop it before it starts.
Everybody keeps saying this is the last cycle somehow, and that at the very end of episode 4, Adam Jonas tells young Jonas, he says something like, your end, my end, already implying that their ends are together. But yeah, somehow this has to end. Listeners, we're going to take you through all these time periods chronologically. There's going to be a lot of overlap, but we'll see if we can take you through it. We're going to start in the earliest time period, 1921. That's where Jonas wakes up after stepping into the God particle. He's obviously beaten and scattered and injured, and he's taken in by this kindly family. This kindly family seems to have 2 children, Noah, who I am still anti-Noah. I don't care if he's following future Jonas. I hate Noah. And sure enough, I hate his younger self as well as his sister Agnes.
Could he get more creepy? Every iteration of Noah is welcome to Creepsville.
White Devil Noah. And scenes between both of them, I'm like, which one's worse? I hate them both equally. Anyway, Jonas, obviously, he's in 1921. He thinks he can get out of it. So he goes to the cave. He goes to the tunnel, which, of course, Jonas and that character, the man in the tunnel in the very first episode, were carving, but it's a closed tunnel. Jonas leaves the cave. Who does he see there? Noah slicing up and eating an apple, just like we saw him in episode 2 when he was middle-aged, Noah waiting for Mikkel. Here he's sitting outside. And he's just taunting Jonas. He's taunting Jonas, but he does say that the group, the travelers, are waiting for Jonas. Jonas is brought to the newly built church. Somehow in the newly built church, there's an underground system, elevator, which leads him to seemingly its own temple and Adam's room.
And is this where he says, you don't look like the way I thought you would look?
Yep.
How do you map to a younger Adam the way he looks now?
Yeah, you don't have a bald head and misshapen face from radiation or time traveling. Noah and Noah, when they're speaking to each other, they keep talking about this prophecy. Part of the prophecy, Noah says, older Noah tells younger Noah, he's like, well, the prophecy was written by somebody who's seen the future in the past. I believe he's implying Adam himself. And so older Noah tells younger Noah, Adam is going to send Jonas on his way to start the last cycle. Somehow, please God, I'm Team Jonas, I'm Team Young Jonas and Middle-Aged Jonas. They've got to somehow stop themselves from becoming Adam Jonas.
What is Adam's goal? What is he trying to accomplish with these cycles? And do we all live in cycles? Is this a Lost type situation? We're in the purgatory. I enjoyed Lost, but I hope we don't go there again.
Tiny, let me say that I am with you. They've got to break these cycles. How can Adam Jonas trust Noah after everything he knows of Noah? The first time he meets Noah, he's like, who's this creepy guy talking to me? Oh, yeah, it is just destruction. I keep saying, I guess I'm Team Jonas. I'm Team Young Jonas and Middle-Aged Jonas. And how are you feeling about Jonas?
I'm wondering if you are on to something from our prior podcasts, and I don't know if this is the time to mention the pages. I think he looks at those in 1921, and I'm wondering if it shows that something is going to go wrong with Adam's plan, and maybe Noah is a Trojan horse of good guy who is going to let that happen.
I'd rather have the apocalypse happen than
he's creepy.
Noah.
I get it.
Well, let's get to that time you're speaking of, Tiny, 1954. An awful lot happened here. We begin in 1954. Claudia's mom, and she's also Egon's wife. So Claudia's mom, Egon's wife, she is having relationships with this older version of Agnes Nielsen. Agnes Nielsen, so they're all together, is Trante Nielsen's mother, Ulrich Nielsen's grandmother, Mikkel Nielsen's great-grandmother. Claudia walks in and sees her mom there. Then she goes on a walk with Trante, and she's asking about Trante's father. And we had always assumed that Trante's father was Agnes's first husband, a.k.a. Noah was both of these people. Right now, it appears, if they're brother and sister, we're really, really, really going to hope that Noah and Agnes were never brother and sister. I'm sorry, they didn't birth a child. Let's just put it like that.
Exactly. Not pulling a Jonas and Martha.
Well, even worse than Jonas and Martha, for goodness sake. All right, let's keep going on. In 1954, Helge finally returns home with Noah's help. Helge's mom, who has to be the absolute worst character, almost as bad as Noah, is trying to be warm with her son, but she can't. The only thing that gets Helge from 1954 to talk is the reappearance of Noah, the person who he's been talking to all this time. Going back to the Tiedemann family, Egon, whose wife is fooling around with Agnes Nielsen, he's having trouble. He goes to see Helge, and by this we mean the boy Helge, and he tries to question him. He gets no luck. Then he goes to the guy they've arrested, Ulrich. Our Ulrich, middle-aged Ulrich, in his cell. And they're like, well, what's going on? Egon has realized that how in the world Helge got back, this guy we've had in a prison cell, there's no way he could be involved. I love that part of it. But Ulrich is stoic. He's not even saying his name. He's just going to suffer this fate that we know he suffers. Oh.
They think he's crazy, presumably put him in the mental health shelter not long after that.
And he seems to keep getting beat up by the cops because he has bruises. After all these months, you would hope Ulrich's bruises would have healed. Egon, after this, he goes to his office and he has a long discussion with his daughter, who's now the age of a grandmother. Meaning, Egon goes to his office, he sees Claudia from the future, who asks Egon to forgive her. He thinks she's crazy, but he does notice that her eyes are identical to his daughter's.
Why would Claudia need to go back and do that? Is it because she just told the lady to keep going with her mom? I mean, I have no idea why she needs to do that.
She tells Egon that, he's a good guy. He doesn't deserve the fate that's going to happen to him. Later, when Egon goes home and sees the same person, but of course now his daughter, Claudia, she tells him the same thing that he heard from who he thought was a witch, and it freaks him out. Oh, boy. Agnes goes to the bunker to see future Claudia in 1954. Future Claudia gives Agnes some of the missing pages, which are so important. Oh, we got to find these missing pages, but she doesn't give Agnes all of them. So Agnes then goes to see her brother Noah in the church, and they have this discussion. And it turns out Agnes had once been on Team Adam, but she left Team Adam. But now she tells her brother, listen, I know where the last pages are. I'll let you have them if you can get me back in with Adam. And so she gives the pages she had to Noah. Then Agnes still has whose obituary? She has Claudia's obituary. Claudia gave Agnes her own obituary and said, you have to give this to me later tonight. We didn't see it, but I'm going to believe that Agnes did end up giving little girl Claudia that newspaper article from a couple days in the future about an unknown woman being found in the woods. And so that's how Claudia, once she realized time travel happens, will realize her own fate. Oh, if this wasn't enough, old Claudia had gone to see the clockmaker and warned the clockmaker that, hey, I'm going to come see you in a bit after I die. It's a younger version of me. And then Noah.
Again, why doesn't she just wait till the younger version? It seems like she's trying to create some unnecessary conversations, let things play out. I guess she's just popping in and out of the God particle created by the time machine and wants to say all of her goodbyes to every generation of people that she knew.
Yeah, she is. That's a good way to go. I'm going to tell every version of every person I know goodbye and apologize to them if I need to.
Sure. Natural thing you would do.
Including my younger selves. I should point out, important facts pop up that somehow don't seem to make sense in my mind. When Noah is there to kill Claudia, Noah tells her he's not one of her pawns anymore. So some point, theoretically, young Noah or middle-aged Noah become Team Claudia. Boy, is this confusing. Claudia begs Noah to leave Adam. And I think this is going to happen. I think Noah's going to leave future Jonas Adam. But it doesn't matter. She tells Noah to make his own choice for a change. And he does make a choice. He kills her.
Well, he probably read it in the page.
He did, but then he gets the missing pages, and you're right. Noah's like, wait, this can't be true. This can't be true. This can't be true. This can't be true. I loved that moment for one reason and one reason only. It showed Noah being like, I have no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
Screw Noah.
Any theories on who wrote the pages?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That is a great question. But whoever wrote them, if Noah, how's this? And listeners, I don't know any future spoilers unless I could start reading German and go back in time and tell myself these future spoilers. But we keep hearing about there's like a loop, right? This is the last cycle and we could break the cycle. My only hope is that these missing pages show that the cycle has been broken. Now, how the cycle would be broken and yet they'd still end up in the pages of this diary, I have no idea.
I mean, I feel like that is the way things are tilting, right? That something will change. And
yet somehow it'll change so that the people in this reality know what's going on. I want to go back to a great time travel movie, actually. A great time travel movie. I didn't think it was the greatest movie ever. Back to the Future 2, where a character travels back in time and changes the past. And so there are, for lack of a better word, multiple versions of the past. If there's a loop, somebody's got to fix a version of the past so it's not the terrible version of the past, which has brought all our characters so low. I should mention that Noah then tells Adam that Claudia didn't have the pages. He lies to Adam. And then there's a phrase, we will all get what we deserve. Oh boy, that's not a good sign for the people of Winden if they're going to get what they deserve.
Noah's toast.
It begins in 87 with middle-aged Noah. I guess there's only older Noah and younger Noah, but middle-aged Noah I'm going to still call
Noah
him.
Seems to stop aging at a certain point.
He knows a trick. He is with young baby Helge. And if you remember the end of season 1, when Jonas and baby Helge touched each other in that ripple across time, Jonas was thrown way into the future. Helge was transferred 33 years into the future. So we've all been wondering how in the world did young Helge get back? Because obviously he does get back. Turns out Noah has his own version of the time machine, and he was able to bring Helge back to his time as a child back in the 50s. I'm going to start in 87 with Claudia, but this is one crazy trip, and Claudia's name's going to keep talking it.
Claudia seems great in these episodes.
Oh, she does.
She really takes control of the situation and really takes some initiative in her new role as a battler against a force that she's not even sure what it is.
Right? She's been told that Noah's her enemy. And middle-aged Claudia she's like, who? Who's that? So let's get to it. She has the time machine she dug up in episode 2. She goes to the hospital to see Helge because he gave her that book. Helge, says, poor brain-injured Helge says, it's a struggle between light and dark. And he says, never trust Noah. That's the second time Claudia's hearing, hey, you're against Noah. She still doesn't know who he is, but okay. She goes to see the clockmaker, a.k.a. H.G. Tannhaus, a.k.a.
Charlotte's grandfather.
Let's just keep calling him Clockmaker. And he explains the infamous bootstrap paradox, which is something we experienced in season 1, meaning there is no beginning, there is no end. There's no what came first, the chicken or the egg. Things happen because they happen. The Clockmaker wrote a book on time because he was given the book he wrote as a young man.
How many times has he been given his own book by other people? It's more than once, right?
Yeah, he's been shown it multiple times. Yes, how about this? He's also been given the blueprints to the time machine he's going to build by people who know it because he built it. I mean, talk about a life being handed to him.
Chicken or the egg?
He's both. So the Clockmaker, he doesn't use Jonas's name, but he tells middle-aged Claudia, he's like, hey, I found about all this stuff because I was visited by another time traveler. Claudia is having the craziest time in 1987. She goes back to her time, and she sees her father, Egon, and she's had such a rough time. She's like, oh, this is so tough. I can't do this. Egon finally tells her he has prostate cancer. Oh!
I thought she was going to blow this, to be honest. I was just starting to like her, and then I thought she was going to let her sick dad walk out without really saying anything. But thank goodness she pulled it together enough to have that human side. Maybe that's why she's coming to apologize to him, right? I don't know.
Yeah. She's definitely trying. She went to hug her daughter, Regina. She's like, hey, Regina, let's skip school and let's hang out. She's trying to bond with this family. Oh, so tough for Claudia. Let's get to me, Team Egon. 87 Egon, my favorite. He's listening to, we see him in 87 first, and he's listening to this heavy metal album. He's checking out the lyrics. Then he goes to see Ulrich in the nut house, and he's like, hey, you've told me these lyrics back in 53, but this album just came out a couple of days ago. What's going on? Finally, after this inspector in the nut house has never told anybody anything, he says, I'm Ulrich Nielsen. Suddenly, a light bulb goes off in Egon's head. He's like, wait a minute. Okay, what's going on? He goes to his notes, and he remembers that about 8 months ago, a kid showed up who was lost and didn't have a family and said, hey, my dad's Ulrich Nielsen. Egon finds that kid. Obviously, it's Mikkel. So he goes to the Kahnwald house, sees Ines. Ines doesn't want to tell him anything. She loves Michael. But she does give up a photograph. And as soon as she gave him that photograph, I knew what Egon was going to do. I was actually super excited he was going to do it. He goes back to the insane asylum and shows Ulrich a picture of Mikkel. And that causes old Ulrich to go absolutely nuts. Oh.
Is that the reaction you would have had? I don't know. I mean, I guess if you had been in solitary confinement in a straitjacket and in a nuts institution, apologies to those with that diagnosis, but is that the reaction that you would have had? I don't know. I feel like I would want to hear more instead of going off the handle. But again, somebody had been through the ringer like that. Maybe it's a different reaction.
He's been given all that medication across 33 years. He hasn't seen his son in 33 years. Somebody finally shows him a picture. He still can't get it into his head that Egon hasn't gotten it into his head, and he starts attacking Egon. He was here, and you didn't tell me. Oh, so tough for Egon. Should we point out that in 2020, Claudia is going to find out or read an article about her dad passing away alone in his apartment? Or did that headline say that Egon was
found dead by himself in his apartment.
Oh, no, Egon, you gotta break time. I am Team Egon. Somehow live, buddy.
You know, in 2020, I think they can cure prostate cancer. Just give him the cave to 2020.
I love it. Great work, Tiny. We're going to save him one way or another. We are going to save Egon.
What about the comment, what year was it, when Inspector asked Alexander...
And if you want to, we can start with Clausen. And I have to be honest, Clausen is not my favorite character at all. I'm kind of like, he frustrates me to no end. But him and Wohler, the one-eyed cop, who make a hilarious team. I laugh at them all the time. Wohler is never going to tell us. We are never going to learn how he injured that eye.
Well,
never.
I do like that Clausen asked Alexander, why does nobody leave this town? That's what I've been saying on our Winden Caves podcast the entire time. Why in the world is anyone still there?
Welcome to the 1954 Winden Down meeting. Now we have a new motion from Fräulein Tiny. Fräulein Tiny's motion says, I'd like all of us to move out of Winden and never return. Oh, what a silly idea. Welcome to the June 1987 Town Hall meeting. Now we do have a new motion from Fräulein, not so young anymore, Tiny. And it says, I'd like us all to move out of town. What a silly idea, never return to Winden. What next item? Okay, we've got our Town Hall meeting for the month of June here in 2020. And I see, there's some dust on this motion here, but Grandma Tiny has a motion that we all move out of Winden and never return. This crazy old lady. Next item. So we're shutting down that nuclear plant, right?
I feel like we have to refer to Clausen as his official title, Task Force Clausen.
Task Force.
And he's a one-person task force, but he's asking the same questions you are, Tiny. Should we have Task Force Tiny get in here and figure out what's going on with these people? All right, so Clausen, he does interview Alexander. He asks him about, hey, you moved to 86, right around when Mads Nielsen disappeared. I think Clausen must know something. What do you think, Tiny? Does Clausen know more than he's letting on? He volunteered, he volunteered to be the task force Clausen.
Or is this his best and first look of all the angles of the elephant?
Clausen, if he doesn't find an elephant, or if somehow an elephant doesn't kill him by then, these showrunners are missing a terrible opportunity. 2020, this is the time frame the age which we found all our characters. And Tiny, is there anybody on this show who's not on Task Force Clausen who doesn't know about time travel now? Everybody knows, right? Every single character knows.
Well, the kids know something, but they don't know what. I mean, did Martha find the article with her father's picture in it, or no?
No.
Yeah, because Katharina hasn't seen that yet.
She's about to,
yeah, until she went down there. So I think the kids are on to something they really don't know. I'm not real clear on what Bartosz is doing yet, what his mission is.
I don't know either. Poor I hate to say it, I hate Bartosz, but poor Bartosz. All right, let's get to 2020. And let's start with the kids, because this part, I said it out loud, it really reminds me of Stranger Things. This is like, hey kids, let's go on an adventure and let's solve stuff and let's find stuff.
Well, I love that Elizabeth back then is still the most practical one. Hey, are we really about to go into the cave where 4 kids disappeared? Oh, sure, just stick with me. And then they stick Elizabeth at the very end of the line. But I loved her practical thinking back then, and that being demonstrated in that scene.
I did too. So the 4 kids, we're talking about the 2 remaining Nielsen kids, Magnus and Martha. And the two always Doppler kids, Francesca and Elizabeth, they team up. Francesca hasn't exactly gotten back together with Magnus after their tough breakup last week.
Well, she said they were even.
Yeah, okay, maybe they have. They didn't have too many romantic moments in this. They go into the cave. Why? Because both of their sets of parents have completely gone insane or had breaks. And so they go to the cave to figure out what's happening. And who do they find in the cave? But their good buddy, their friend Bartos. And they treat him like hell. Magnus punches him up a bit. They tie him up. They leave him in the cave. And then...
Now, who else was tied up?
They steal the time
Do you remember
machine.
Anybody else who's been tied up?
In which
His
time?
mom, Regina, tied up again by a Nielsen.
He's got to stay away from that terrible family. Great point, Tiny. So, we don't know what Bartos is up to, but now we know he's lost the time machine that he's most likely been given by Noah.
But Noah probably already knows that was going to happen.
And you would assume the way this show works, Noah's going to get it back at some point.
Yeah, I would guess.
And then travel around in time like he always seems to do. The kids return home, and they keep the time machine, but they don't go to tell their mom anything. Meaning Magnus and Martha. They don't go to their mom, Katharina, and say, hey, you've been looking in the caves a lot. Guess what we found in the cave? Mainly because their mom, they just don't have a connection with anymore because she feels broken.
Yeah, a little bit volatile too, I would say.
All right, so let's get to all the adults coming together. And what I mean by that is we had this begin with Hannah calling Charlotte. She hasn't even told her son, even though he's old, Jonas, that, hey, I called the cop Charlotte. They have a big discussion. Charlotte shows up, and Hannah's like, listen, we got to tell somebody. And she probably chose the right person to tell, a cop, a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I really liked this group coming together.
I did too.
A group of unlikely, basically everybody disliked everybody else, except Jonas, who's kind of the outlier in the group, but it infiltrated pretty well. Just that they were all working together and looking at this map together.
Right. Charlotte decides to bring Hannah and Jonas to the bunker where her husband Peter is, where it's all laid out, it's all spelled out there. And then Hannah, people are double H.
Hannah haters.
But Hannah, number one, she was right to say, hey, we got to tell somebody, and I think she chose right in Charlotte. And I also thought she was right, hey, if we know what happened to Ulrich and Mikkel, we've got to tell Katharina.
Well, she just was reunited with her son, and while not what she expected, I think, she looked more with it in the bunker than we've ever seen, like anything behind her eyes before. So I think that brought either some peace or some knowledge or some purpose to her to know that Jonas was not only alive but battling some bad guys.
Yeah, she's a helicopter mom. Helicopter Hannah, where she's going to watch out for her son. But I loved her saying we got to bring in Katharina. And I have not always been on Team Katharina. Certainly her teenage self in the 80s is a bit of trouble. But I loved her reaction to everybody telling her all this stuff. Finally, somebody's like, this is nuts. What are you guys talking about? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Right.
And she certainly shouldn't take or trust or do anything with Hannah's word. Katharina disliking Hannah, loved it. I thought it was perfect. I loved that she looked at everybody. She describes season 1 pretty much to a T. Okay, so wait a minute. My husband's in the 50s, my son is in the 80s, and you didn't bring him back because he's your dad.
So that makes Hannah her daughter-in-law.
Hannah's her daughter-in-law. Families coming together. I also love Jonas telling, let's be specific, stranger Jonas telling Katharina, you're my grandma.
Yeah, you got to find out.
How do you want to find out, Tiny, that you're a grandma? Is there any way that could be possibly worse than how Katharina...
Just keep me in my loop. Don't. Future Tiny, do not come visit me. No apology necessary. No warnings necessary. We'll just let it play out.
Well, Katharina, she hears this craziness, but then, hey, she's had no luck finding her son, no luck finding her husband. So she goes to the school, goes to that class, and sees a picture of Michael Kahnwald and sees, who is it? It's her son, Mikkel. Oh, painful for Katharina, and I'm not on her team. Oh, my God.
And it's been in the school the whole time she's been there.
Yes. Oh, while she was a student and while she was principal. Oh, my goodness gracious. How about this? I want to go back just a bit in that when Charlotte is bringing Katharina to the bunker, she says something that I like Charlotte a lot, but I didn't like the way she phrases it when she's like, Katharina's like, have you found my husband? Have you found my son? Have you found my husband? Found my son? And Charlotte's like, we found them and they're alive. I didn't like that and they're alive statement. I thought, a little
bit misleading with Mikkel, Michael.
Yeah, and most likely Ulrich. Don't
Yes.
you think that Charlotte, if she's a cop, she can find out, hey, what happened to this prisoner?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, absolutely. She could find out what happened with him.
Of course, we don't know Ulrich's fate yet, thank goodness. We hope Investigator Ulrich, we hope everybody can break this terrible, terrible cycle that has been going on. Now, you said you didn't want Future Tiny to to come warn you about everything, or do you want Future Tiny to come apologize to you?
No.
And say, oh, take care of your brother, Bubba.
No. Well, the question is, Bubba, has that already happened? Am I going to have a memory tomorrow of Future Tiny talking to me when I was like 7? Who knows?
Who knows? But Claudia has traveled forward in time to 2020. She goes to the library. Somebody goes to a library.
Hey, there's another gathering point in Winden. There's another place that you can go into the city.
And she goes to the library. She implies she wants to find out about the town, but she immediately starts, for lack of a better word, Googling her own history. And this is one tiny where I may disagree with you. And listeners, tell us how you feel at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram. Would you read your history? Do you want to know? Do you want to know your future so you can change it and prevent it?
I think if you're in front of something that can literally as easy as Google, I think it would be impossible not to Google yourself.
Well, she Googles herself. She Googles her father. That's how, once again, we find out Egon's sad fate. Before any of this, the first thing she does once she travels to 2020, is she goes to see her daughter Regina, and then sees Regina there suffering from chemo and all her hair lost. And yeah, I love Claudia. I'm still on Team Claudia.
Maybe we should just all migrate from Team Jonas to Team Claudia. Of course, we just lost Claudia, R.I.P., but maybe there's a younger version of Claudia that we're going to be able to see in future episodes.
Love it, love it, love it. So she goes, she finds out this history, and she somehow is able to return to her time. We're glad. Can she break this cycle? Can anybody break this cycle? We need you, Claudia. We hope those pages... Heck, Claudia, I hope, even if the pages... I just hope you wrote stuff that's wrong in the pages so that maybe it'll break the cycle. Maybe Claudia, those pages that were ripped out that she was held onto, maybe she just made up facts hoping that someone would take them and then... I don't know.
That seems a little far-fetched. I don't know. The pages are the pages.
Tiny, let's go to our last time frame. We didn't spend much time in the future. 2053. But we see Elizabeth there, and she has caught the character we're calling Scarface hanging out in the God particle.
Look, I think Scarface is Francesca. And I know that she has a different hair color. But, who else that might know sign language that's about Elizabeth's age?
Okay, all right. Listen, after all my crazy theories, which end up not being true, I've had a million characters being Noah, that's wrong. I've had Martha being Agnes, that was wrong. So I am not going to shoot down anybody else's theory. I don't see it yet, but let's be honest. You get in the God particle, you could get really messed up. You could easily get a scar. Oh, what did I'm so lost right now at this point. What did future Elizabeth say to Scarface in 2053?
I think she was asking what she was doing there. That's about all I remember. The other thing I thought, though, is at the very end of season 1, Scarface tells young Jonas, "Welcome to the future." And so I started thinking about that, and does Elizabeth and Scarface, do they know that they are in the future?
One possible future, yeah. That is a great question. And Elizabeth keeps saying that people think it's God, but it's not God. She says the God particle is actually the work of the devil. I hear the work of the devil, I think, way to go, Noah.
Yeah, well, I mean, she could very well be right.
Tiny, this has taken so many twists and turns. I can't even predict what's going to happen next, even though I know in some instances what has to happen next, like the death of Egon, which I really, really don't want to see. Any thoughts from you as we wrap up this week? Oh my God, crazy.
I really enjoyed Egon. I would love at least another Egon episode. I don't know if he's going to be discouraged by almost being killed by Ulrich. Looks like he kept his ears intact during the confrontation, but I would love 1 or 2 more episodes. I don't know, again, where he's headed with it. If he and Claudia teamed up, that would be my dream next episode.
I would love that as well. You mean him and his daughter, but him and his daughter who knows about time travel.
Exactly.
I would love that as well. Tiny, that's going to do it for this episode, but as we mentioned here on Season 2 of Dark, every episode of Winden Caves podcast is going to feature a shocking family reveal. We've seen so many shocking reveals in this family. Today, Katharina found out in a shocking reveal that her grandson really needs to shave and trim his beard. And so you and I, Tiny and Bubba, we're going to have our shocking family reveal. Now, if you listened to last week, you know that Tiny and Bubba are actually siblings.
Yes, that's correct. We fought over Pop-Tarts the whole time growing up.
And I, like Magnus, would slap the back of her head as young Mikkel always got the back of his head slapped. But now we have another shocking reveal. In an earlier podcast, we told you the story of Cousin Jack's viewing of Dark. Do you remember that story, Tiny?
Of course I do. Cousin Jack, this is actually a typical Jack story where he misinterpreted the dubbing as terrible acting in our favorite German series.
So here, in a shocking family reveal, we'll point out that Cousin Jack is not our cousin. He's actually our nephew.
He's our nephew. We call him Cousin Jack because other people in the family call him Cousin Jack, but he's actually our nephew.
Dun, dun, dun. For everyone here in the Winden Caves podcast, we're part of the Double P Media family, doublepmedia.com. Please talk to us. Join us in the cave. It can only get worse from here. At Double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram. Facebook.com/Double PHQ. Once again, I'm Bubba.
And I'm Tiny.
And you'll see us deep, deep, deep. God, please, no more Adam-esque reveals in the Winden Caves.